welcome back to the On the Ball podcast series from the Vanderbilt Sports and Society Initiative. I'm Andrew Maraniss, the one person who's not a professional broadcaster or student majoring in communication studies actually hosting this. So we've got it all screwed up, but I'm excited to have Adam Giardino, Andrew Allegretta, Errington Truesdell with us today to talk about a really cool event that happened on campus a couple of weeks ago, thanks to the Black Play-by-Play Fund that Adam started, that Andrew facilitated happening this event here on campus, and that Errington participated in. So guys, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Happy to, of course.
Adam, take us back to the roots of this nonprofit organization that you started, the Black Play-by-Play Fund. Why was this an interest of yours, and what's the origin story for this organization?
Yeah, in some ways it started by accident. At least it turned into a 501c3 by accident, because this all took place around the time of the George Floyd murder, when I think a lot of people were trying to figure out in what way they wanted to get involved, enact change, something along those lines. And for me, being in broadcasting for over a decade, it was specifically play-by-play broadcasting. It's a part of media on the sports side that is just lacking diversity. It's a lot of white men specifically that get involved in this, and there are societal, socioeconomic reasons that really contribute to that. And so having said all of that, I knew that if we wanted to make change, we had to do something. And so I say it was an accident because when I reached out to a lot of my colleagues, and I was in minor league baseball for a decade, so I had a lot of connections in the minor league baseball realm, and said, hey, let's do something. And a lot of them, their paths included underpaying or non-paying jobs that, again, exclude people from certain backgrounds and perhaps large swaths of society in general. And just by reaching out to them, my goal and hope was that, hey, this is a 6-month minor league baseball season. Let's raise $3,000, $500 a month stipend to help an aspiring Black play-by-play broadcaster be able to survive a little bit more comfortably during that season. It wouldn't fix all of the ills that go along with pay in the minors, but maybe it could help bridge a gap for at least 1 year. And from $3,000 as the goal, once we went live, we raised over $20,000 in the first 48 hours, and realized pretty quickly that not only was this something that was generating a lot of support nationwide from people I had never met, but from really influential and important names in the industry, but that this was something that needed to be more than just a flash in the pan one-time thing. And the silver lining and the caveat of, fortunately, this happened during COVID, in that I didn't have games to call. And so I could do all of the not fun legwork of reaching out to the IRS and setting up bank accounts and doing all of that labor that I fortunately had time to do. And now moving forward, 4 years later, we're just able to do some of the fun stuff, like give out scholarships and grants and have symposiums like the one that we had here at Vanderbilt just recently.
Terrific. And I should say, your voice of UConn Huskies right now. I know you travel with women's basketball, and you mentioned you worked a decade in minor league baseball. At what point in your childhood or youth did you recognize that this was something you wanted to do?
Yeah, I grew up without cable television. It was just something that, it was a very specific segment in time where you didn't have to have cable TV. Streaming services weren't a thing. And so I grew up listening to sports on the radio. And it wasn't until I was in high school that we got cable television. And for someone that grew up in Massachusetts, that was Nesson. For the Boston Red Sox, that was the deal breaker for my dad. Once half the game started going to cable TV, he said, all right, that's it. We're not holding out anymore. We're going to cable TV. And so just growing up, though, on radio, that's where I fell in love with sports and how it sounded and being able to tell stories. So from high school, I was fortunate to have a high school teacher that was the girls' basketball coach, and said, hey, plug a mic into our camera and just start talking. And did that for 2 years, and didn't necessarily end up at a broadcasting powerhouse program, but I ended up at UConn at a D1 university and got a ton of experience there, and off and running.
Perfect. And Andrew, coming back to this Black Play-by-Play Fund event that happened at Vanderbilt, you were instrumental in pulling off this event. Tell us about exactly what happened over the course of 2 days. who were the young people that took advantage of this opportunity?
So a lot happened, I think, and we crammed as much as we could over the course of 2 days. First off, Errington Truesdell was a part of it. We're thrilled that he would carve out a couple of days. We had one Belmont student. We had two TSU students. We had a student that was flown in from Indiana University, and we had one high school student from Gallatin High School. So we had 6 students come in, and I think the focus for us was twofold. One, to do some hopefully productive and intensive classroom work, which we did in the morning. We had a couple of speakers come talk with them for a couple of different reasons. One was Chris Lewis, who does play-by-play for CBS Sports. One was our track and field coach, Coach AT here. And then the other piece of it, which was really the bulk of it and the significant part, was they called the women's basketball game on a Sunday and a men's basketball game on Saturday. So we wanted to make sure that this was a hands-on symposium, that they could leave the event with a tangible piece of, as we call it, tape, whether it was radio play-by-play tape, whether it was TV tape, that they could walk out of here with something that they could have for their resume reel, and then have for critiques that they could send out professionally. So we wanted to make it both a really good learning experience, but something that they could walk out of here with something tangible.
Okay, and this was a free conference to
Yep.
develop skills, to have something to show when you're looking for a job down the line. Andrew, same question back to you. What were your roots in this business? When did you discover this is something you wanted to do? And what were the key moments along the way to, becoming a Power 5 play-by-play man?
When no one would let you on a football field to play football, that's usually a good start. When no one would let you bat in the number 9 spot because you couldn't handle a fastball that was thrown at 65 miles per hour. These are all good places to start.
Okay.
I think for me, I really, really enjoy sports. That's obviously the first part. The second part of it is I've been involved in some sort of performance fill in the blank throughout the course of my life. So for me, play-by-play broadcasting and sports broadcasting in general was a really nice fit to blend the two of them. I've always seen that as kind of part and parcel there, that you get to be a performer, but you get to do it in the context of sports, which is 100% what I'm about. I probably knew from a fairly young age, you're talking about 10, 11, 12, that you were going to kick around this path. And I started looking at schools that would fit. And then I just got sucked into that vortex, and it wasn't going to let me go. So it's been a really fun one. But I think one of the things that I've picked up on my journey, and it's part of the reason that we did what we did over the weekend, is I'm not sitting here talking to you, helping Errington, helping with Adam at Vanderbilt or anywhere else that I've been without help of others. I've been really fortunate to have people in my corner that wanted to help me progress. And that came from a teaching standpoint too. It wasn't just like, I'm going to forward your name onto some hiring manager. It's going to be, I'm going to take an active role in developing you as a broadcaster. So I found a really strong connection with teaching in some regard. So this organization at this university with the teaching element was a really nice blend for me in the things that I like to do.
Very cool. And Errington Truesdell come to Vanderbilt as a football player from Georgia, majoring in communication studies. We'll talk about the event here in a second, but where did your interest in studying communications come from?
So I've always been immersed in sports ever since I was 4. I've been playing football. So sports has always been a huge part of my life. I played football, basketball, a little bit of soccer. I played everything growing up. So I've always known since I was little that I've had a love and a passion for sports. And then kind of as I was in high school, you kind of watch around, you're looking around. I was a big YouTube guy, and I wasn't necessarily watching like the video games and things of that nature, but I was watching people like Stephen A. and other analysts who were kind of breaking down games. And I'm like, I kind of do something similar like this with my friends. So like, maybe this is something that I could find my way into. So obviously I came to Vanderbilt as a football player. And one of the first questions I asked my academic counselor, I was like, what is the communications program like here? Like, what is, I guess, the next step in this field? Because you hear a lot about career opportunities and things like that, but it's not necessarily put into place how you get to that next step. So ever since I got here early, I've been looking for places, and I haven't done as well of that good of a job on my part, like looking for outreach opportunities and opportunities to get practice, but I've always had it in my mind that I want to do some type of sports journalism, sports broadcasting. So then I recently had to medically retire from football, and you always hear people talking about football only lasts you so long. Eventually, you're going to have to, like, you're going to be thrown into the real world, and you have to know what to do when the time comes. And for me, that moment kind of hopped up, like it appeared fast because I didn't plan to be medically retiring this early. But however, as soon as I did medically retire, I always, like I said, I always had the vision in the back of my head that I wanted to do sports broadcasting. So then I was asking around some of the coaches, some of the people on staff, my linebackers coach, Nick Lazinski. I was like, anyone in this field, anyone in this area that could possibly help me out? He connected me with Michael Scholl, who was part of the Vanderbilt operations and communication services. And then Michael then connected me with Andrew here. And we've been in contact probably about 2 weeks since after I medically retired. And he's been here providing me feedback, giving me teaching, giving me coaching, just next steps and things like that to actually make my dream of becoming a sports analyst a reality. And I really appreciate him because, like I said, it was kind of out the blue that I ended up in this spot. And without him, I don't know, like maybe the next step I would have taken. And so, like, yeah, I'm really appreciative of him.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, you hear about athletes even after a long professional career, when that day comes when they're not playing anymore, like wondering, well, what do I do now? Who am I? And it sounds like you're on the right path pretty quickly. Tremendous. Great work, Andrew, working with Errington. Errington, what was it like attending this conference and, being behind the mic, calling a game maybe for the first time? I don't know if it was, but what did you take away from the event?
Yeah, so it was a little nerve-wracking at first, not the classroom portion. That was very helpful. And it all sounds good in the classroom when everything's ran down and it'll be like this and that. And then when you see like you're behind the mic, you're like, is this going to be on air? Are they going to hear me? And then so you're a little bit hesitant at first. But when you get into it, first of all, just familiarizing yourself with the players, that's what I found was something that I really had to kind of get the hang of quickly in order to be able to effectively do the job. And then when I kind of slowed down and I was like, okay, this is nothing but practice. No one's going to hear you anyways. Just make the most of the opportunity. Like, don't hold back. Worst things worse, you make mistakes. You have two professionals right here with you to correct you. And also, like, we had the kids with me had varying levels of experience. So there were kids like Zion from Indiana who was extremely experienced, and like you could tell. And the fact that he was willing to help me and he wasn't like withholding any information from me. He was giving me his process, showing me how he did things to help me. And then there were also the two students from TSU were in the same boat as me, very little experience. And we were kind of just there helping each other, motivating each other, like letting each other know this is something you want to do. You have to like jump at some point. So this is the moment we decided to jump. Really, from that moment, we took advantage of the opportunity and just used the weekend to absorb as much knowledge and to learn as much as we could just about the entire play-by-play field in general.
Amazing. And Adam, when you see these students taking advantage of this opportunity over the course of 2 days, you see your vision come to life in a way. What were the moments that really stand out to you that you're like, yes, this is what I envisioned. This is what I was hoping would happen?
Yeah, and I mean, as much as the Black Play-by-Play Fund is definitely my brainchild. I mean, this weekend, the symposium, it all falls on Andrew, and I mean that doesn't change my answer here, where it's watching what these kids are able to do and seeing somebody like Errington. I thought that the very first day on Saturday, where it was men's basketball, logistically we had kids up in the crow's nest area, so way removed from courtside, just because of media access, being at a men's game, being that it was an SEC network linear game, that we just had less access to being courtside for that particular game. And so seeing Errington and his partner that day, I believe he was working with Lauren, and to see them stumble a little bit on the radio, but just recompose and say, all right, we're treating this seriously. That, you're going to have those moments where it's the first time you're doing something. But just to be able to recover, regroup, and not give up on the entire hour of process because you made one or two mistakes, that was the rewarding thing. Because given a different group of students, that could have gone in a different direction, and it could have required Andrew and I to step in and be a little bit more guiding and comforting in some ways. But just to see them be able to hold each other accountable, not in an overly serious way. It's sports, it's broadcasting, it's fun. I mean, Andrew and I love doing what we do because it's fun, but just to be able to treat it with the correct level of seriousness, because, and I'm sure Errington can relate that some days at football practice are more fun than others. But as long as you can have fun, as long as you're treating it seriously, the energy's good. And I think that's what I really saw from him. And that was really the most rewarding part, was seeing that they didn't give up on an entire half of play-by-play just because they had a stumble or two early on.
And Andrew, Errington mentioned that, developing this relationship with you means a lot to him. And I'm sure in this business that relationships matter. I mean, that's how you find out about opportunities a lot of times, or get a chance, which is also the problem, that it's been
Yeah.
a closed network and there hasn't
Yeah.
been an opportunity for everybody, especially if you're not already a part of that network. So to what degree were relationships important for you, in finding opportunities, and how can people who have these positions, which are so few, I mean, it's harder probably to become the play-by-play person for an organization than to play for it, right? There's only one typically play-by-play guy, right? But how can people in those positions, use where they are to help other people come along?
So it's a great question, and I certainly don't have a perfect answer to it. I think, the thing that we did a couple of weeks ago was a really nice start. I mean, relationships are so much. They may not be everything. I tell students all the time that connections and your network matter, but you have to be good enough when your network and connections matter. Does that make sense? If you're not ready for the moment, then your connections and your network don't matter. But it's also 1 + 1 = 2 a lot of times. I don't have a clean answer for you, Andrew. I know that I was really, really fortunate to be able to reach out to people throughout the course of my career, which is still hopefully reasonably young. But I don't get off the ground without the ability to make a phone call or send an email and get a critique, get an honest piece of feedback, and give you just perspective on how to step and how to move. There's no perfect path. There's also no one job in this industry, but I go nowhere without the resources that I've been able to pick up throughout the course of my 15 plus years at this point. So I didn't have some perfect vision for the event. I really enjoyed it. I just knew that this was something that we could do that hopefully would have a positive impact. And representation matters. So, if we can take this event and make a positive impact on a small sample size and let it grow from there, that's great. I know that's not a clean answer, but I know that this event was enjoyable for those that were involved. At least I think so, Errington. And another thing that matters to me within all of this, and Shane Foster is the one that really put this on my radar, is I don't want this to be a one-off event and then we wave and we say goodbye, because that's not how I got anywhere professionally. And if the 6 of you guys ebb and flow in exactly what you're interested in professionally, that's great and that's fine. But I think I do, and I think Adam does, want to stay connected with this group. And if we do it again a year from now, we'll stay connected with that group. And all of a sudden it's 12 students and we can all help each other. Again, I go nowhere without the assistance of a lot of key players professionally. So if we can be that for another group, especially a group that isn't reflected in the current population of play-by-play announcers. And Adam, you tell me, is there another Power 5 voice of a school that is African-American? Are there any? One?
There's one, and he was just named last year, Troy Clardy of Stanford.
Stanford.
He's the first
Yep.
At the FBS football level. So,
Yep.
I mean, that speaks to, think about the population that we as football broadcasters cover, the percentage of that which is non-white, and then the percentage of media which covers them, which is white. And that's just way out of touch with where it should be any way you slice it.
And I do think, I don't want to overspeak here. I think sports broadcasting has made some nice strides collectively over the past couple of decades. But specifically the play-by-play field, lags in all of that. I mean, you're talking about one Power 5 African-American announcer. There are certainly 0 Power 5 female announcers. Like, that's not even remotely on the table at the moment. Not that it shouldn't be. Of course it should be. It's just this particular field, and Errington, not that you need to go into my field. That would be bold of you, to say the least. But it is white guys, period. So again, if we can do one small positive thing, then I'm happy with it.
And just to build on that, Kate Scott, who's the voice of the Philadelphia
Sixers.
76ers,
Yep.
She had the opportunity, I think she was doing last year through Learfield, their game of the week.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
she was not the voice of a school, but I do know that Learfield, which is a property ownership of many or probably most of the Division I schools' rights across the country, from marketing and media and all of those good things. Yeah, she was just involved with them. So again, they're mindful, and they were certainly a big piece in helping us put this together from a Vanderbilt side and from a national Learfield side. And so Tom Bowman definitely was excited last year talking with him about Kate Scott and making sure that there was more representation even on their radio national games.
Errington, coming back to your experience with this event, sometimes, you might take an internship or a first job, and it's just as valuable to learn, like, you know what, actually, that's not what I want to do, or sometimes you have that first experience and it really lights a fire for, the direction of the rest of your life. I mean, coming out of this, did you feel even more energized to enter sports broadcasting? And were there, did you gain?
We drove him out of it, Andrew. We squashed his fire.
You squashed it completely.
Totally
I can imagine that, Andrew.
Yeah.
Spending any time around you, fleeing from that profession. Or Errington, like I can imagine, like, also just being thrown into the fire in basketball compared to other sports. Like, it was probably tough. Like, did you gain an appreciation for, like, what you're hearing when you're watching or listening on the radio to a sports broadcast? Two questions.
Yeah, most definitely. One of the things that I noted to both Adam and Andrew was the fact of, I guess, an element that I kind of overlooked and overstepped that we didn't even get to do was the production part of things. And at home, it's so easy to kind of just sit there. It goes to commercial. You kind of get on your phone, just find something to do, some busy work. But when we were actually there, we got to take a half to go into the production room, and you got to see, it was like 10 to 15 guys in there. Everyone had to be on the same page. Everyone had to be dialed in. They had commands. They had certain times where they went to certain cuts. And then, like, you really gain an appreciation for those people, because, like, things like replays, I personally enjoy replays. If I miss something, I'm not always, like, focused on the game, but with something like a replay, there's certain guys giving out certain commands to certain people, and everyone has a certain role. And it's like, just watching them work together as a team. I'll say that aspect of sports broadcasting, I definitely overlooked, and I really appreciate now. And in regards to your first question about igniting the fire, it definitely did. Like I said, I've always been interested in sports journalism and broadcasting. And I'm the type who, if there's something I'm interested in, I'm going to go find out about, like, my own self if it's something I want to do. Like, I'm not going to go off someone else's opinion on something because everyone's different. So the main, like I told him, the main angle of sports broadcasting that I had in mind was like a studio analyst, like a Stephen A. Smith, Josh Pate, Kirk Herbstreit. But you never know what it is that you like until you go and do it. So I always tell them, like, I was appreciative of this experience, and I'm definitely going to see if I can find any more opportunities in this field. And I don't want to eliminate, or I don't want to specialize too early, because I think just in general, whether I'm doing play-by-play, whether I'm doing studio analyst, the fact that I'm gaining sports knowledge and covering sports and gaining experience, I think that's the most valuable thing right now. And just whatever way I can, like, I recently started a TikTok where I do studio analyst type work. And even though not many people are seeing it, that doesn't matter to me, because number one, if one person's seeing it, that's still more than zero if I was just keep it to myself. And two, you can only gain experience. You can only get better the more you practice with something. So I think the fact that I've been able to do something like this on my own, regardless of the results, it's just been invaluable experience that I've gotten from it.
Well, sure. So if people want to follow your TikTok, how do they find you?
So the handle is In the Stew with True, INTHE STUWITHTRUE.
In
Chat
the
some.
studio, true, like in the studio, true. All right.
Yes.
And that's terrific. And Adam, I think, whatever path Errington follows is wonderful, but your fund is specifically aimed at play by play because what you know better than I, but I imagine that we've seen opportunities come along for former players to be the color commentator, right? Or to be in the studio, but it's specifically addressing a problem of the play by play position that you're looking to address and to solve, correct? Just for those who aren't in this business every day, might not be thinking about these different roles as independently and distinctly as you are, and you're attacking the play-by-play position.
Yep, absolutely. But as you just heard from Errington, I mean, go pursue what you're passionate about or what you think you might be interested in, because especially in this field of sports media, you're going to have to be working long days. You're going to have to be doing a lot of things on your own. Errington's trying to make himself better at being a studio host and seeing if that's something that he could be interested in. So he's doing it on his own. I mean, the number of times that I've sat at a desk and just called some football off of a computer monitor to myself and nobody else just to make sure I'm getting better at those things. Like that's the kind of work that any area of sports media you've got to put in. So if we bring in kids and they are saying, okay, I think sports play-by-play is something I'm interested in, and then they realize they're more interested in production or studio hosting or color commentary, like we are connected to all of those people, and we are not going to just give up on them because they have a different interest.
Sure.
It's just, I mean, we're just looking to get people where they're supposed to go in general, and hopefully along the way that opens up the eyes to some people of what play-by-play can be, because I think the lack of representation in these seats may automatically in their minds disqualify them from ever holding a position like that. So I think just by opening that conversation, that's a big first step. And if it ends up being some other path or some other passion, great, go do it. And we'll help you. But hopefully at least giving them the exposure of play-by-play and putting it in their mind that this is something that could be possible. That's all we're looking to do to start out with, and seeing if it can grow from there.
I think we had one student, Adam, that was clearly not going to go into it, Lauren. Like, she found out that this was not her thing, and that's wonderful. I think we had another student that had never done it before, but I think we piqued his interest, Landon over at Belmont. So I think that's kind of the great part about a weekend like this is, Lauren Gibson at TCU doesn't have a lot of experience, kind of fashions herself a little bit more of the reporter type. She gave it a try. She's going to stick with being a reporter. Landon Seacrest had never done this before. He's Belmont's women's basketball sideline reporter, tries out play-by-play, and I think there's a curiosity there. So everyone's going to figure it out. But I think the weekend that we had is one of those good steps to help, whether it's Errington or whoever, kind of decide, or at least have better clarity at which steps they want to take next.
And last question, Adam, for people watching this who are interested in supporting this effort, what are the ways that they can do that?
Yeah, certainly. I appreciate you asking that. Social media wise, we're exclusively on Twitter or X. So it's just at Black PXP. So that's play-by-play Black PXP Fund. And then the website is blackpxpfund.com. /donate if you're looking to contribute financially. Again, it's a 501c3. So especially at this time of year when people are figuring out their taxes and realizing that that's at this time of year, we get a lot of people that donate, and some donate very specific amounts of money down to the penny. And you know exactly why, because they've got a certain amount of tax deductible income and they might as well give it to us than give it to somebody else. So we certainly will welcome all of that with open arms. And, we're certainly grateful. It's been a grassroots effort. We are starting to see more and more larger contributions from folks across sports, and we're going to have some exciting announcements soon, especially with Major League Baseball. They're going to be making a pretty significant donation and have a really cool announcement that I'm excited to tease right now, and hopefully we'll have more information in the coming weeks. But, being on this side of it, You don't realize until you do something like this what a $10 donation really means. And it's, you know, if we had lots of people donating $10 a year, we could get a lot of things accomplished. So just always keep that in mind when thinking about supporting nonprofits.
Yeah, for sure. And these donations, sorry, I told you it was last question, but just to follow up on that one, they support being able to put on conferences like you did at Vanderbilt that allowed, you know, 6 aspiring broadcasters to have this amazing hands-on experience. What's next in terms of the opportunities that you'll be able to provide to people thanks to the contributions? More of these types of events or other things?
Yeah, we are using this Vanderbilt one as a template to reach out to Learfield with all their different colleges in their portfolio and just say, hey, where else over winter break are you looking to do this next year? And I think there'll be a real interest in that. So that's awesome. And again, that costs money to make sure that food and housing and lodging and travel and all that's taken care of, because again, barriers to entry in the industry. It's great to have an event like this, but if it costs someone from out of town, you know, $500 to make it there, for some people that's nothing. For other people, that's a huge barrier. So yeah, being able to just cover all of that and not worry about hotel rooms and those sorts of things, that's huge. And then our scholarship program, we've given out $8,500 in scholarships each of the last 2 years, which is incredible. So we're thrilled to keep that number right where it is and hopefully continue to grow that number, probably 10,000 plus next year. So we're really excited to be able to do that. And like I said, you know, Major League Baseball's got something really cool going on that we're going to be involved with. And NABJ, which is the National Association of Black Journalists, they have a conference every summer. This year it's in Chicago. We were able to get some kids down to Birmingham last year and join myself and a couple other board members just to get them in front of hiring folks and just make them, you know, there were over 3,000 people at this thing and it was awesome. And I was one of less than 50 white people in a conference of 3,000 Black journalists. And it was really a powerful place for me to be. And it was a really powerful and rewarding experience for our kids to be in a like room where they could see themselves and a lot of really impressive, successful, and powerful people.
Well, that's great. I mean, kudos to you for starting this effort and providing opportunities to people. Errington, we'll be watching your TikTok, looking for you on TV here in the future. So
Thank you.
best of luck to you. I'm so happy that you were able to have this experience as part of your, you know, your time here at Vanderbilt. And Andrew, keep up the great work you're doing at Vandy. I'll see you over at Memorial Gym here shortly.
About
guys,
5
thank you
minutes,
so
my man.
much. Yeah, exactly. Right up to airtime. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.